Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. I hope the week's gone well. I apologise for my absence yesterday, but I was attending this launch of the B team, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. This photograph caught my attention. Angel's wing cloud above Old Lentile Conservancy in Laikipia may be a sign to the end of the drought, and we can all hope for that. We're just editing my interview with Charles Hecker of Control Risks, and we put out a little snippet of that interview where he says, "Let me congratulate Africa for staying out of Donald Trump's Twitter feed," and I think he's spot on. Look at this photograph of the Seguta Valley at the edge of the Chalbi Desert. Really is an incredible sight, and when I got some money, I think I'll book a helicopter and go and take a look with Hannah and Hannah's mum. This Saturday, that's tomorrow, we're hosting Sid Chatterjee at Mindspeak. Look at this photograph of Sid. He's a parachutist, he's feminist, he fights for women's rights. A really, really interesting man. And as I was writing my introduction, I was thinking to myself, a few people are more optimistic than I am, and he's certainly one of them. A highlight of his career was to get 3,551 child soldiers demobilized from the Sudan People's Liberation Army. And I was reading a travelogue, and it was really interesting. It was about somebody who was traveling in Africa, and they get to South Sudan. And at that time, he was posted to South Sudan. They stay a couple of nights, and there's this sort of 3 or 4 pages about Sid. And I rang him up. I said, have you read this? And he hadn't. And it was very interesting. What is Mindspeak? Take a look at that little bit of video. We serve breakfast from 9:30 a.m. We start at 10. We're at the Intercontinental, and the entry's free. All you got to do is bring your mind. This was interesting. These are the world's best equity markets since 1900. Between 1900 and 2016, the world economy moved from telegraphy to smartphones, horse-drawn carriages to supercars, and from letterpress to internet. And throughout this period, a few countries produced the highest average returns for investors in stocks and bonds. According to a study by Credit Suisse Group AG and the London Business School, the best equity markets over the past 117 years were commodity-rich nations such as South Africa, Australia, the US and Canada, while Denmark and Sweden yielded the highest bond returns. David Fickling tweeted, "Tesla now worth more than Nissan. Nissan produces more cars in a week than Tesla does in a year. Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi makes more electric vehicles than Tesla as well." Somebody was asking me, what does it mean? I said, it's a conundrum. And I thought to myself, there's so many conundrums in the markets, and you can go poor trying to wait for the moment when the conundrum finds its equilibrium. 30th of December, I wrote my optimal portfolio at this moment. Looks like this long Bitcoin, short gold on the spread. Bitcoin hit a record high yesterday as investors look to hedge against Trump policy uncertainties, and have a look at the spread, which had a very torrid period in January, but it's now back on target. Bitcoin versus gold in 2017. Take a look at this, which is the France 2-year spread versus Germany. This is as the market starts to price in the likelihood of Le Pen winning. And you can see there's been a big scare there. There was a very big turnout, actually, yesterday at the Kuwait National Day. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. Good to meet the ambassador. Aiden Douale, who was the guest of honor, said, "We stood shoulder to shoulder with Kuwait in its darkest hour." Paris Review, words grow, age die, and I am still interested in that metamorphosis. Elie Wiesel. Stand-up paddleboarding at sunrise in Watamu. The photograph is by the Wonders of Watamu. Quite fancy doing something like that. Newsweek asks, how many days before President Pence? I don't think it's going to be very soon, but it will happen at some point. My mind is still reeling at North Korea using VX, a chemical weapon so dangerous it's considered a WMD at a major international airport, says Max Fisher. Malaysia says VX nav agent was used in the murder of North Korea's Kim Jong-nam. North Korea says China is dancing to the tune of the US in an unusually hostile commentary, hit out at China, denouncing the country's decision to ban coal imports from the isolated nation as inhumane and vowing to carry on developing nuclear weapons. While the piece published Thursday by the state-run Korean Central News Agency didn't mention the country's Cold War ally by name, it made no effort to disguise the friendly neighbor in question. The commentary called the coal ban tantamount to the enemy's moves to bring down the social system in North Korea, which is formerly known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. This country, styling itself a big power, is dancing to the tune of the US while defending its mean behavior with such excuses that it was meant not to have a negative impact on the living of the people in the DPRK, but to check its nuclear program. So we got an interesting development there and a chink of light between what were always erstwhile allies. I like this tweet, Panoramico de la CDMX in 1946, Juarez, Monumento a Revolución Insurgentes from Roy Campos. Probably trying to steal the Mexican authorities as they met with Tillerson and others. Russian soldiers are seen in this photograph patrolling the recaptured rebel stronghold of Aleppo. And in this article, Radio Free Europe, it's talking of it being a semi-frozen conflict, words that echo in both Syria and Ukraine. Very interesting piece I found in the Financial Times. Cyber warfare. Russia mobilises an elite band of cyber warriors. But if you listen to my podcast, you know that already. It was an early dinner by Parisian standards, 8:40 p.m. on a mild spring evening at Prunière, an opulent seafood restaurant near the Arc de Triomphe. And amid the hum of conversation, the cracking of shellfish and the gentle chinking of glasses, Yves Bigot missed the insistent ringing. Then I saw multiple missed calls, SMS messages, emails, the whole shebang, he recalls. Both my phones were going berserk. Frantic staff at TV5 Mons nearby offices had been trying to get in touch with their boss. Something had gone terribly wrong. It was April the 9th, 2015. And the channels across TV5 Mons network, the world's largest francophone broadcaster, began switching off, one by one, hundreds of television screens at its headquarters. From the lobby to its broadcast galleries had fallen silent. In its basement, the TV network's servers were being systematically erased, digital piece by digital piece. As he scrolled through panicked emails, Mr. Bigot, the broadcaster's Director General, opened a picture message on his phone. A colleague had taken screen grabs from the channel's website and social media accounts. In place of the usual turquoise signage was the Shahada, the Muslim profession of faith, written in white on black. Above it, Cyber Caliphate, Je suis IS. Surrounded by squads of heavily armed counter-terror police, a team of engineers worked through the night to save the network. They did so by a hair's breadth. 2 months later, ANSSI, France's cybersecurity agency, briefed Mr. Bigot. The attack had not been the work of the Islamist group at all. Instead, they believed responsibility lay with a group known as APT-28. They were Russian. A year later, in the spring of 2016, during the US election campaign, APT-28 would initiate an even more audacious operation. The group hacked the DNC, releasing thousands of files to discredit Hillary Clinton and calling into question the sanctity of the US democratic system. The scale of the attack shocked the US, if not the entire Western security community. But for those familiar with APT-28's evolution and the shift in its operations represented by the attack, on TB5 Mond, it came as no surprise. The curtain is still being pulled back, said Sean Henry. We're further away from security in cyberspace in the US than we were 8 years ago. Many fear the group's activities are far from over. Cyber attacks on NATO are up 60% in the past year. Attacks against EU institutions are up 20%, says one senior security source at the Commission. The trail of evidence left by these attacks, while far from comprehensive, goes some way toward indicating the way Russia, under President Putin, sees the world, and how the modern Russian state must secure its place within it. It is one of tactical opportunism and flexibility, but also deep and considered strategic commitments, lines of attack and influence that have been years in development. Putin and his team are the heirs of the Tsarist and particularly the communist secret services, says Chris Donnelly. Their understanding is one of permanent conflict with the West, in which information has always been a very important issue. Influence and subversion, and the whole issue of what they call active measures or dirty tricks, anything short of declared war, is there to be run. Kaspersky Labs are talking about what sets it apart, Mr. Raju says, is the number of zero-day attacks. You'll have to go and read about that. That's quite technical. And Mr. Bigo is saying the attack on TB5 Mond was like a demo tape. Criminologists in the Western intelligence community are still divided on the timing of Russia's altered course and relations with the West. Some date it to Kiev's Maidan revolution in 2014 and subsequent invasion of eastern Ukraine. Some see a slow burning breakdown with Moscow's paranoia exacerbated by years of freewheeling US foreign policy and enthusiasm for regime change. A smaller group see an ever wider arc in which Russia is asserting its Soviet, even Tsarist, geopolitical behavior. Russia's military does not tend to talk of cyber warfare as the West does in tightly prescribed, legally measured actions, but rather discuss the broader concept of an information war, a concept that precedes the Soviet era in which the toolkit has been brought up to speed for the digital era. On Wednesday, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu confirmed the existence of information troops, rumored for years, but long denied by officials. Propaganda must be smart, literate, and effective, he told the lower house of parliament. They spend $300 million annually on its cyber army of about 1,000 people. They really believe they're under some sort of siege. They believe they lost the first Chechen war thanks to journalists. So when they're in a crisis, the first thing they need to do is control the information space. Russian analysts say there is a structural dynamic to the rise in APT-28's activity. In 2013, Mr. Putin ordered a modernization of the way Russia controls its operations abroad. It created the National Defense Control Center. Take a look at that. Designed to coordinate everything from propaganda, economic influence, and intelligence through to conventional military operations. It has catapulted the GRU into a central role in Russia's engagement with its adversaries. The GRU has become very significant. It is a volatile situation. Real-world tensions between Russia and NATO are running high in militarized zones like the Baltic and the Black Sea. Cyberspace jokes a recently retired senior British general as the new Balkans. Take you back to my article, we have a DV8 Tomahawk, which I'd like to think I was saying exactly the same thing. I said Putin has proven himself to be an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims. My starting point is the election of President Trump, because hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. John DeLillo is a prophetic 21st century writer, writes as follows in one of his short stories. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. He checks in with his flight dynamics and conceptual paradigm officers at Colorado Command. We have a DV8 Tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference. I've gone redundant, but I'm not sure it's helping. We are clearing an outframe to locate source. Thank you, Colorado. It is probably just selective noise. You are negative red on the step function quad. It was a voice, I told them. We have just received an affirm on selective noise. We will correct, Tomahawk. In the meantime, advise you to stay redundant. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon, is a melange of repartee, laughter, and song with a quality of purest, sweetest sadness. Somehow we are picking up signals from the radio programs of 40, 50, 60 years ago. I have no doubt that Putin ran a seriously 21st century dominantly digital program of interference which amplified the Trump candidacy. POTUS Trump was an ideal candidate for this kind of support. He was and is a linguistic warfare specialist. And I said the second thing that you've got to notice is the non-linearity of the Russian intervention. And as I said, hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference. He is an information master. Wholesale prices for wheat in the Yemeni capital city of Taiz surged by more than 40% on February the 12th. The black market value of the currency, the rial, plunged 30% against the dollar. The economy shrank by 28% in 2015. We're looking at a serious risk of starvation for a large proportion of the population, says UNICEF. Will killing claims bring down Duterte? No. Despite the controversy, Duterte has enjoyed high public opinion ratings. A polling firm revealed in September that after 100 days in office, he enjoyed a net satisfaction rating of plus 64%, higher than those of all recent Philippine leaders apart from the reformist president Fidel Ramos. The Dow closed at another all-time high for the 10th consecutive day. Take a look at the chart. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 105.94. Dollar index 100.92. Japanese yen 112.72. Swiss franc 10058. The pound 125.48. It's been strong of late. The Aussie 0.7717. Indian rupee 66.654. South Korean won 1131.48. The Rial 306.16, Egyptian pound 15.9535, and the Rand 12.8859, and hit a fresh 14-month high yesterday. Dollar index, I'll put up a chart here, and it's all hunky-dory for the bulls as long as we stay above 99.50, and we've had a strong rally since Trump won his election. Euro dollar, let me put up a chart here as well. It's a counter-trend bounce. I'm looking to sell it with a 106 handle. Where 106 we'll get a feel for when we see how it develops. And the reason for that is at this moment, I think President Putin is fortress Europe surrounded from the outside and from the inside as well. The intellectual father, the new zeitgeist that propelled Brexit, Le Pen, the five-star movement in Italy, Geert Wilders in the Netherlands is Vladimir Putin. And that is why, actually, Euro sterling is in fact a sell. I'll put up a chart of Euro sterling as well. Market positioning is now extremely long across the commodity complex. Interesting piece in Bloomberg. This is Goldman Sachs. Javier Blas, Glencore shares jumped 6% to 2-year highs. Commodities giant signals bigger dividend. We could give our long-suffering shareholders a generous gift, said Glencore CEO Ivan Glasenberg after the release of the 2016 earnings. Gold, last trading at $12.54. It's been on a bit of a roll, but Bitcoin has been on a bigger one. It's a battle between how quick OPEC can cut without shale catching up, Noonan said, referring to US drilling and shale formations that has shown an upsurge this year. US crude exports surged to a record, and you can see exactly that being confirmed. Crude oil, I'll put up a 1-month chart. When you're at the top of the trading range, I don't expect to break higher. I think we'll actually come back down again. Demand for bacon is slowing, sending pork prices to their lowest in 3 years, apparently. Emerging markets, our Venezuelan hyperinflation index just jumped again. This is from Bloomberg. South African government's drawdowns rising pose risks to its fiscal position. This is Moody's Investor Services. said the budget aimed to stabilize the debt to GDP ratio, but while government guarantees relative to GDP are also projected to stabilize, their actual drawdowns are rising and represent increasing risks to the government's fiscal position. South African mobile phone giant MTN targeted by Nigerian protesters in Abuja after xenophobic attacks in South Africa. South African all-share is up 3.02% this year. Dollar versus Rand, the Rand is at 12.88. I think one takes profit now on long Rand positions, which I'd actually called for at the beginning of the year. Egyptian pound as well, I think you take profit there as well, just below 16 at 15.9535. IMF urges Nigeria to implement coherent and credible economic policies. And those two words are the key words. Black market exchange rate dropped below 500 for the first time in 3 weeks, according to Nairametrics. That was further confirmed by Paul Wallace. Basically, they offered $230 million of forwards yesterday to try and drag it lower. Nigerian all shares down 5.45% this year. The new president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is saying all the right things in my view. Ghana looks primed to move from a policy-making haircut to a policy-making premium. And you can see that there's been a nice recovery in the Ghana Stock Exchange, up 20% since December lows. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 8.51% year to date. Somalia has appointed a Prime Minister, Hassan Ali Khairi. Actually, was reminded yesterday at the Kuwaiti event by the Eritrean ambassador that I'd been a guest of the Eritrean ambassadors when Hassan had been there. So wish him all the luck going forward. President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, known as Farmajo, named Hassan Ali Khairi as Prime Minister. Coming to Kenya, this is good news indeed. Bob Godek announced, I'm very pleased to announce that Kenya received its FAA International Aviation Safety Assessment rating of Category 1, which means we'll now have direct flights between Nairobi and the US. Reports recommend Safaricom should be broken up. This was carried in the Business Daily. A report commissioned by Kenya's telecoms regulator recommends breaking Safaricom up into separate telecoms and financial services businesses because the firm is too dominant. The CA, which asked consultants Analysis Mason in May to study competition in the sector, declined to comment on the leaked findings, saying the draft report was being reviewed internally. Safaricom, 40% owned by Britain's Vodafone, biggest telecoms firm in Kenya, 26 million subscribers. It's a malicious act to leak such a damaging report without first consulting or at least sharing it with us, said Bob. The regulators said the draft findings would be discussed with mobile operators in Kenya before Analysis Mason, which specializes in telecoms media technology, prepared the final version. Leaked report comes 2 days after Jacoyo Midiwo, the deputy minority leader in Parliament, said he was proposing amendments to banking and communications laws to force Safaricom to separate M-Pesa, which is regulated by the central bank. Collymore rejected the claim Safaricom is dominant and said any moves to clip its wings using the study commissioned by the regulator were designed to help rivals rather than consumers. He said the publication of the leaked draft had already undermined foreign investors' confidence in the East African country as an investment destination. It sends a really worrying message to international investors interested in investing in the country. It would imply that this is no longer a safe place. I think it is indeed ridiculous. M-Pesa reached 6 billion annual transactions milestone last year, processed 614 million transactions per month by the end of last year. Michael Joseph, M-Pesa is a revolution that has empowered tens of millions of people in some of the purest communities in the world to start and grow businesses and gain greater financial resilience. All of us at Vodafone are very proud of how M-Pesa has enhanced our customers' daily lives and helped them plan for the future with confidence. Stanbic Bank reported full-year earnings per share down 9.911%. Loans and advances were ticked higher by 3.44%, so that's interesting. Credit impairment charges were lifted 93% to 1.75 billion. Total operating expenses surged to 23.496%, but they gave an explanation to that. Profit for the year was down 9.93%. Earnings per share down 9.9%. Final dividend was 3 shillings and 48 cents. That's on a share price around 67, so pretty material. Kestrel is saying that net interest income at the bank level grew 17.3%. Net interest margins came in at 6% at the end of full year 16. Non-funded income up 2.7%. Cost to income ratio increased to 58%, driven largely by a 23% increase in operating costs. Management indicated that by stripping out the hyperinflationary impact of South Sudan, costs increased by 10%. And I'll put up a photograph that they tweeted from their results. Big increase in operating expenses, but on a P ratio of 5.992, it looks good value to me. Barclays Kenya rallied 4.22% yesterday after releasing its full year numbers, which we've already seen. It's down 4.94% year to date. And Barclays PLC has agreed to pay $988 million to split with Barclays Africa. Barclays Kenya made a profit from bond trading of 885 million shillings versus a loss the previous year of 453 million shillings. Kenya Power reported first half earnings per share was up 11.399%. Revenue, first half revenue up 9.912%. Operating profit was up 4.32%. Profit after tax up 11.399%. Earnings per share up 11.399%. No interim dividend. But on a PE basis, this is an incredibly cheap share. Headline growth is driven by connections. It is a buy just on that PE valuation basis. Unga reported first half earnings per share down a whopping 56.89%. Turnover was down 2.594%. Profit before tax down 58.732%. EPS down 56.89%. Lots of detail in the commentary. Revenue and profit before tax declined by 2.6% to 58.7%. Flour volumes increased. Maize flour and major animal category feed volumes reduced over prior period. Worried about the adverse climate that prevailed in the region during the first half. Non-availability of quality maize grain posed a significant challenge. High raw material costs, general slowdown in demand. Trading difficulties associated with the formal retail sector. That's Nakumap. That's an interesting point they're making there as well. Maize grain shortage is expected to remain a major challenge for the remainder of the year. Sharply lower first half earnings, and they've issued a profits warning. The accompanying commentary is quite granular and underlying the challenges in my view. Longhorn Kenya reported first half profit after tax declined 23.899%. Sales were down 18.82%. Shift in buying patterns in quarter three. Conscious decision by the board to discontinue low margin product. They have a digital strategy, launch of companies' e-learning platforms, and they've paid an interim dividend. Soft second half earnings. Headline sales down 18.8%. Home Africa, which was listed on the NAC in 2013 at a price of 25 shillings per share compared to the current price of 95 cents. Kenya shilling firm at 103.52. Nairobi all share closed at a 6-week high, but still down 5.56% this year. NAC 20 closed at a 6-week high as well, still down 5.56% this year, but it's crossed 3,000, closed at 3,009. Interesting development in the bond market. Kenya's 30 billion shilling infrastructure bond was oversubscribed by 16%, but the Central Bank of Kenya took only 5 billion shillings from the 35 billion that it was looking for. I like this photograph of Lake Turkana wind power project in northern Kenya via Instagram. I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday's Safaricom Better Biz launch of the B team. Attended that during the day, and I'll put up a photograph where I was supporting Team Pay of Safaricom who are playing for SDG 10, reduced inequalities. The B team was Aidan Mohammed, Lord Mallet Brown, Bob Collymore, Vinit Rai, and Caroline was the moderator. I like this from Nick Gowing, the scale of the challenge by Chris Donnelly. finally let me leave you with BAT releasing their results, it seems, in a little corner office all by themselves. But that's just being cheeky. Look, Mindspeak tomorrow. I hope to see you there. 9:30 breakfast, 10 start, Intercontinental Nairobi.